We got the Orioles taking on the Red Sox all week, and of course the Diamondbacks playing for first place. That's cool. The undefeated Baltimore Ravens are traveling to Jacksonville. We'll be down there and on the backfields in Owings Mills all week. That's cool. And oh, by the way, over in the corner to the right, the Maryland Terrapins, don't look now, 3-0, big, exciting, crazy game on Saturday night that I was monitoring on my Twitter. This guy is not on Twitter, but he's covered the Terps for 2 decades now, and certainly their football program, and former SID at Radford, which I did not know, but I'm now going to pimp that every time I have him on. He is with the Terrapin Times as well as the Sports Exchange. No one knows more about Terps football than this guy. He's Mike Ashley. We welcome him back as one of our defending champs, and I can now say Mike Ashley, the undefeated Maryland Terrapins, just like I could say the undefeated, or I could even say the winless Washington Redskins, which brings a twinkle to my eye as well. So how about those Terps, though, right? Good start to the season, and now, we see Purdue. This is a real nice start. This is exactly what you wanted to see if you're a Terps fan.
Right, 3-0, bye week going into Purdue, and it's become all the more important, the bye week, because Perry Hills got shook up in overtime, got his shoulder banged up. Of course, we're not going to know how serious that is, maybe not till game time and when that happens, but he's listed as day-to-day right now. Of course, the big hero coming off the bench was the freshman Tyrell Pigg from Piggy. Piggy went to the end zone, and the Knights cried all the way home. So it was a fun night.
Did Piggy go to market or to town? I'm not sure.
Well, he got to the end zone, which was all that really mattered. 2 little cutbacks there. It looked like he was determined just to take it on his own there, and I think for the fans that got to see that play, you got to see his explosiveness, and like Lorenzo Harrison, that kid has just got another gear that we haven't seen that often. Those really rare athletes, and you've got to 2 freshmen like that. You got to be excited for the future. What that bodes for the Maryland offense.
All right, well, tell me what you're excited about. I mean, get our audience here in Baltimore that may have been asleep at the wheel or only saw the highlight at the end, because it was sort of a highlight-driven game, right? Like, it was long on that sort of thing on the 11 o'clock news when you got to see 4 plays, and one of them was this incredible sort of walk-off victory, right?
Well, the first thing you need to know, I was very impressed with Central Florida. You don't say that about teams that don't have a whole lot of wins under their belt, and you don't know much about rebuilding. Scott Frost has got something going down there. Everything we heard about how hard those guys hit was true, and what that translated to was Perry Hill's passing numbers kind of coming back down to earth. He didn't have the greatest day throwing the ball, and Maryland had a lot of trouble on 3rd downs and ended up punting more than usual. So what you have there is a team like Maryland, another young team on the road here, really don't have a great win under their belt so far. They were supposed to beat Howard. They were actually supposed to beat FIU, and they did handily. So they really hadn't been tested. So they've got hit in the mouth a few times down at Central Florida, and I think that's the thing that, looking at it from a fan's perspective, I'd be most encouraged by. These guys showed some resiliency. They didn't get down when things went against them. They made the plays to come back and win that game against a team that was coming off of just a absolute butt kicking the week before against Michigan, and really came out with something to prove. And Maryland gutted out that win, and that's one that's going to serve them well. I don't know what's going to happen against Purdue. That game's still a little ways off, but Purdue's given up a lot of points. So, I like Maryland's chances at home with what looks like, ticket sales have been brisk from what I hear from sources. Could be a huge crowd there for a homecoming for them getting back into Byrd Stadium. It should be a lot of fun.
Well, it's a 3:30 game time. We're now a week and a half out on it. It is October the 1st, and it would be nice to have one of those kind of parties for DJ Durkin, right? And to say, all right, we're going to get in and row the boat here a little bit. And look, the Orioles are having trouble selling tickets, right? The Nationals are going to need to sell tickets for postseason because they're going to be in the party as well. We got the Caps starting, the Wizards starting. Obviously, the Redskins have gotten off to this atrocious start, and I think Ravens fans are revving up the engine here. There needs to be a place for Maryland. There needs to be some oxygen there for them that they create, right? And they create create that by going to the Big Ten, getting a couple of wins a few years ago, trying to get some people to believe, bringing a coach in that, and certainly the amount of money that's going to be poured into the franchise down there, and into how they recruit and the way they recruit and the way they're going to need to recruit to compete with the Ohio States and the Michigan States and the Michigans and the Nebraskas and the other teams that they're going to be seeing year after year, including Purdue. This thing even ramps up. This is the second level, right? So there's a little breathing space here. Then there's a second level of, Purdue, Penn State, Minnesota, and then there's the next gear later in the year. And you'd like to think that maybe you don't beat those teams later in the year, but you're not losing 31-6 at halftime, and they're putting the JV squad in to beat you 42-21 in the end. That would be unacceptable to Dirk, and that much I can see, and I haven't met him, I haven't talked to him. I can see that from the outside.
Yes, but you were talking about being in a division in the Big Ten that includes Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, and those guys, they're up there with the schools that always have advantages every year, just in name recognition. The times they're going to be on TV. Thank God Maryland got out of the noon time slot for a nice little 3:30 start. I really like that as a fan that was going to the game.
Because you don't have to get up at 7:30 in the morning to go to the game. I got you. I mean, I'm old too, Ashley. I've been around. I get this. 3:30 is a nice time. I agree.
Well, as a writer, I kind of like the noon starts, to be honest with you. I don't get to tailgate anyway, and then I get out of the stadium early enough to meet my wife for dinner. But, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice that for the common good. I think they're going to have a great crowd. I think it's going to be something special. And, I just pile up the wins where you can here, because it is going to get tougher. And you know what? There is still a huge difference between those programs I just rattled off and what Maryland can do this year. Now, I'm not going to talk about the future, because I think Maryland might might keep moving up and be more of a factor. But this year, I don't know if they have the depth, the numbers, the size, the speed to compete with those guys. But hey, anything's possible if they play Dirk and ball, or the special teams make plays, and they're able to defend and keep the game close. They do a lot of good things. They're just as Dirk and promised. So far they have been very solid fundamentally.
With 3 wins, and these were the necessary 3 wins to become on that verge of saying, let's win a few games in our league and we can be bowl eligible. And I know part of this whole journey, and I sit here every December, guilty for 25 years now, and making fun of Weed Eater Bowls and Cherry Bowls and Potato Bowls and all that, but it does make the world go around, and it does lead to the next step. That was the part that I saw Saturday night when I saw it all bleed in, that it finished in the right direction in double overtime in a 30-24 win. I'm like, this really gets them closer to where they want to be, which is getting a bowl game in December, because at the end, they're not going to win the national championship this year. And to your point, they're not going to steamroll Ohio State here and beat up on Michigan the week before out there. That's not going to happen. They might steal one of these games, but winning those first 3 was that's what sets them free at the end of the year to extend their season by a couple weeks.
Well, Ralph Friedgen taught me why any bowls, are so important to get your team there, because you get all that extra practice time in December. It's like having another spring practice to get ready for the next season. And what happens as you get ready for a bowl game is you really just want to kind of lick your wounds, get your guys healthy again. You don't put your starters and your second stringers and your veterans through all that work in those practices. It's the red shirt, which Maryland ironically doesn't have a whole lot of, but it's the younger guys that you put out there and let them get all the work experience in the bowl practices, and that's how you build momentum to keep going into the next season. And it was a sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy during Ralph's tenure as the teams didn't get to bowl games, and that begot more rugged seasons the next year and that sort of thing. And of course, Ralph, long story short, he just never really had the quarterback he recruited here that he needed to make his whole system work.
But Ralph also took Notre Dame games to kick off seasons and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't an easy road always. He didn't like. I don't think he wasn't a guy that liked the Howards and the FIUs, right? Or am I wrong about that?
Well, not early in his tenure.
Right.
Later on, he did. Like Ralph sort of changed, and I don't want to recast history because I'm a Ralph fan here, but I think and you got to remember DJ really didn't get a chance to put much of an imprint on the first couple of schedules he's going to play. I think he's going to be a similar kind of guy because I think he's all about the competition. He talks about how every week, the guys that started last week aren't necessarily going to start next week because something could happen in practice this week with the guys behind him. So I got to think a guy like that would love to see his team be in a position to be pushed early in the year to be better going into Big Ten play. So that's something I'd look for in the future.
How much have you seen him rattling the roster to say, all right, you could do it against Howard, but can you do it against Central Florida? I mean, what's going to happen here in these 10 days? Because I think for any of these coaches, they're all mad scientists, right, Mike? I mean, he's going to go into the laboratory this week and probably try to come up with something to take Purdue out, and probably has seen a few things from a few players that maybe we'll see some more PT or less PT for some of these guys.
Well, there's some interesting, Wes Brown is coming back from his suspension. This will be the first game he's eligible. And of course, he's the team's leading rusher from last year, and he's a big, strong back. Kenneth Goins has kind of been filling that role, and of course, Goins broke loose for a 16-yard touchdown, and he's maybe the best blocking back they have. But they run mostly one back, so you don't really need a blocking back. So now suddenly they've got like 5 or 6, quality tailbacks, and it'll be interesting to see how Brown fits back in. The other thing you wonder whether Hills is healthy or not. Has Pigram shown enough that he deserves at least some packages of plays each game where you can throw that change up in there, a little quick guy that's going to come in and do some things differently than Hills does, or does Pigram get more of a look? I don't know if you want to do that against Purdue, but those are a couple things. There's been revolving doors to wide receivers too. A lot of those guys are alternating at several positions. They're actually using probably about 7 or 8 guys right now, and they're not all healthy. So we'll see that. Then you got to think about Will Likely, a guy that's playing offense and defense, and so he's already doing a lot of that. He has made no bones about it. He said he's going to put his best athletes out on the field wherever he can, and so far that that whole approach I think has really breathed life into the whole team. If you work your tail off in practice that you're going to get to play in the game that week, and I don't think you can say enough about what that has meant for these guys.
They also get a week to scout, and this week Purdue will be playing Nevada at home. That's a noon kickoff. You want to take a look at Purdue a week before Maryland gets them. Meanwhile, Maryland takes a week off. They get back there after it on the 1st, 3:30 kickoff, and the Big Ten play begins at that point. Exciting times around here, Mike Ashley, correct?
Look, getting to be close to these guys, every week, getting to go out there, during the week and talk to them, and then to see them play on Saturdays. There really is something going on here, and if you're a Maryland fan, get on the bandwagon now because it's gonna be a fun ride, and it's gonna pay off big in the next year or so.
Well, I hope we get a chance to enjoy this season and, every Saturday be engaged by a pretty good football game. That's all I can hope for, especially against the better competition, that they kind of hang in there and show something representative. And I always tune in to see what kind of jersey they're going to wear, Mike. I mean, I never know what the hell they're going to come up with down there.
Well, that used to be the most important thing. Fortunately, thank heaven, it's not anymore. Now the football means something again.
Hey, man, always great having you on. He is with Terrapin Times as well as the Sports Exchange. He is Mike Ashley. We'll check in again in a couple weeks and find out how we're doing as we get ready for Penn State after Purdue. Great having you on, Mike. Be well.
Thanks a lot, pal.
You got it. Mike Ashley from Terrapin Times and the Sports Exchange joining us here. You can find him I asked him why he doesn't tweet. He said he's too emotional to tweet. And I said, hey, man, I understand, man. I mean, sometimes you got to take my keyboard away. Sometimes my wife grabs my phone. Says, you can't tweet that. Let that settle for a couple minutes before you throw that out there for the universe to retweet or like or love or reject or dispute or engage or all those cool things that Did I say those are cool things? Sometimes they're cool things. I like it out on Facebook Live where I say hello to everyone, and of course out on YouTube on our WNS TV channel, streaming live. Big doings this week. Monday, a golf tournament with Roos Chris, raising money for There Goes My Hero. Lots of celebrities. I caught up with Tippy Martinez and Dave Johnson, and I caught up with Michael McCrary and a whole bunch of Rick Volk. I saw him on Monday morning as well. And of course, the Ravens undefeated. The Orioles looking for playoff madness, and the Red Sox this week. Capitals are even going to drop the ball. It's Capitals Media Day later this week. Crazy, crazy local stuff. And the undefeated Maryland Terps. So we got a little Terps football in there for you as well. Bino Ranson out with us on our Monday night, who I coached when he was a lad. That's still the greatest story ever told. One day Bino's going to cut the nets down, and I'm going to take just 1 ounce of milliliter of credit or blame. If anything goes wrong with Bino, I don't know what you're talking about. We'll see him. Maybe he'll go to the Maryland game with me on the 1st. That's what I should do. Bino, you want to go to the Boilermaker game with me? Come sit in the stands with me. Let's go watch the game. Have some peanuts. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Next Wednesday night, we're going to be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry at Greenmount Station in Hampstead with my new pal, Alex Lewis, the new starting left guard of the Ravens, who speaks fluent German, or at least says he does. Maybe we'll serve German chocolate cake or Black Forest cake or something that night. I know we're going to have crab cakes that night. And Ryan Jensen's going to come out too. So Big Ryan and Big Alex going to join us at a Greenmount Station. Come on out. It's next Wednesday night. Get swabbed for the Bone Marrow Registry for There Goes My Hero. Have some crab cakes and a cocktail and join us up in Carroll County. It's football season and the Ravens are undefeated. How many times am I going to say that this week? I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.